Why would Joe Rogan just randomly start talking about McDonald's?
A formula at McDonald's? Why that's the best tasting Coke and Diet Coke on the planet?
Coca-Cola does something different for McDonald's. The fast food chain gets their Coke syrup delivered in stainless steel tanks. Your tongue can taste the difference.
1,000% it can.
And why would these guys follow the same script?
Their Diet Coke is phenomenal. They don't cheap out on the syrup or the carbonation.
But does Coke have a recipe that they send?
100%. That's why McDonald's Cokes are so good.
Now, Joe explicitly says in that podcast that he's not sponsored by McDonald's, but his guest that day, Tom Segura, publicly stated that he is sponsored by McDonald's.
The McDonald's? He goes, how does $2.3 million sound?
Now, this isn't really that interesting or surprising until you realize that McDonald's doesn't really sponsor podcasts traditionally the way you would hear BetterHelp or Squarespace.
By BetterHelp.
By BetterHelp.
BetterHelp.
BetterHelp is
BetterHelp.
BetterHelp.
So if McDonald's is sponsoring content, how are they doing it? In this press release from a podcast production company, it says that McDonald's had signed a multi-year contract. And in it, it explicitly says, it will support McDonald's in efforts by creating custom segments and content featuring McDonald's offerings. So we know that they are working custom content into podcasts. And other companies are clearly doing it too. I mean, you can't see Shane Gillis publicly without him having a Bud Light in his hand. At this point, you might be asking yourself, well, isn't this just traditional product placement? I mean, it's been happening on movies and TV for as long as we can remember. Well, you're right. It is traditional product placement. But you don't see it as much in podcasts and YouTube. Until then, we're stuck with this.
It's undeniable. The app is really easy to use, and it's got everything.
So why don't more advertisers subtly embed their content into podcasts and YouTube like Bud Light or McDonald's? Even Coca-Cola, for example, they didn't make Mr. Beast read an ad. They subtly embedded their content into the video. The answer might surprise you. The way it currently works is the podcaster will read an ad and then give you a special link to go to. Brands can easily track who's clicked that link because they always put their name at the end of it. From there, they can effectively track how well that placement performed.
/mythical. I link in the description. You /Jacksepticeye.
So let's say the brand spends $10,000 on getting that podcaster to read that ad. They want to be able to track if they earn $10,000 or more in return. It's called ROAS, or return on ad spend. Until now, it's been an extremely easy strategy. And that's why it's used so often. Brands can very easily roll out a campaign and track how well it did. But big brands are getting smarter and they're learning to whisper. They're learning to organically include the content so it doesn't seem like a boring ad. They're really trying to get people hooked. They're really trying to keep people engaged because this ad format is becoming fatigued. So how do they track the performance of an organic placement? How do they know it works? How do they measure it? Well, we know it must be working because they're doing it. Lots of advertisers are doing it. And for good reason. They know that listers are skipping advertisements. They know that it could end up getting a low conversion rate, therefore losing money on the ad. So they got to go to their boss and they got to tell them that this ad lost money and they don't have a way to measure the success of it unless people went to that link. And being disruptive in a video can be seen as annoying. In fact, Mr. Beast himself posted his back-end YouTube metrics to show how viewership worked, and it actually showed where people dropped off when an ad was being placed. You can see it in the dip on this graph. So how can you or your company rely on the success of a campaign without a boring ad placement or giving out a code? Well, I don't know the secret sauce to how these big companies do it, but I do know two major things that I can guarantee that they are including. Number one is that they're measuring their cost of acquisition. Normally it's called a CPA or a CAC, so cost of an acquired customer or cost per acquisition. And basically what that means is the total cost that it takes a company or a business to acquire a customer. Companies measure that on a daily basis. They're constantly measuring how much it costs to acquire a customer. Many different ways. But what you can do is if you see your CPA coming down, you know that top level organic mentions are working. Basically, the more familiar a customer is with your brand's name, the more likely they are to make a purchase. Therefore, big brands might know that it's more effective for a consumer just to know who you are than it is to try to get them to make a purchase right away. Consumers are 10 times more likely to check out if they've actually heard about the company. So technically, you don't need them to make a purchase right away. They just need to know who you are. So that when they do go to make that decision, they feel more comfortable making that purchase. The second way you can do it is to use hard data to prove that it's actually working. Now, there are many ways to do this, but one of the major ones is media mix modeling, or MMM. It's used by Google, Uber, Procter & Gamble. It's known as the gold standard. MMM produces metrics like revenue elasticity of impressions. If they pay Mr. Beast $50,000 for him to put a Coke bottle in the video. Hopefully that'll garner enough sales that if they spend X amount of dollars on increasing impressions, then hopefully they make more in revenue than the impressions actually cost. If you model it correctly, it could be measured as easily as ROAS. So if big brands are learning to whisper, should you?